Welcome to Dream Machine. My name is Aaron.
My name is Patricia.
And today we are finally going to talk about The Bad Guys 2. And I guess we're going to say apologies for the delay of getting this episode out because let me just give some explanation. I don't know what it is about our local cinemas in the UK, but we went around to like all our local theatre times that we have here in Manchester. And for some reason, they always seem to want to air The Bad Guys like during the day. And me and Patricia, we work, we've got lives like outside of this thing, and so we weren't gonna want to take a day off to like go watch The Bad Guys too, you know what I mean. So we've currently got happy marriage currently going on. We've got this house to look after, and we've got our own adult responsibilities, and we didn't really feel like want to go massively out of our way to go watch effectively a kid's movie.
Yeah, and I know some people are asking about why couldn't you watch it over the weekend? Well, we have things to catch up with on the weekend.
Exactly. So apologies that it's finally come out now, but finally it has come out on streaming. So we finally rented it out on YouTube, and it also is available on Amazon, I think, Amazon Prime as well. But we finally got to sit down and watch The Bad Guys 2, and so I think we really do need to somewhat discuss about this movie, because we saw the original Bad Guys, and I said in that podcast that this was at the time when DreamWorks just couldn't write for us at this point. They were really struggling.
Yeah, for several years, if you can remember it, all the way back in 2020, where 1 year after they released How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World, they went on a mediocre slump for several years. They released Abominable, then there was Trolls World Tour, then they did The Croods: A New Age, then they did Spirit Stallion Free, then they did a whole bunch of other mediocre movies that just didn't really light anybody's world on fire.
They were really, really struggling at that point, and even Illumination were just leaving them in the dust in some places, and also Pixar also was having another rise as well, and in the content that they were producing,
and then of course you cannot forget about Sony Pictures Animation.
Yeah, exactly, and so it makes you wonder what are DreamWorks going to do to try and rescue this whole situation? But then they released The Bad Guys, and it was wow, we thoroughly enjoyed The Bad Guys. We absolutely loved it. And, I loved, the Big Bad Wolf, Mr. Snake, Mr. Shark, Miss Tarantula, and, Mr. Piranha, all those characters. Marmalade, I think, was a fantastic villain, I think, also in that time, and he was played very well, by all the actors involved in all of this. I thought, hey, they've got something here, and, this could be the next Madagascar, and I thought, yeah, we're really looking forward to The Bad Guys 2. When the trailer came out, we were really, hyped for it. This was going to be, we're getting, The Bad Guys movie. And then we finally get to The Bad Guys 2, and sadly, it's not as good as the original. So before we start getting really rough with this project, let's get into, what this is about. So, the bad guys are now the good guys. They have now reformed, but unfortunately, it's not worked out as well as they'd like to. They're no longer the fast car driving, where they've got, all the items that they've stolen, everything like that. They've had to give all that stuff away. They are risking being evicted from their flats. They're effectively, penniless at this point, with the exception of Mr. Snake, who seems to be making, seems to be doing pretty well for himself at the particular time, but we'll find out why that is, as the story progresses. But, it's funny because I thought at this point, I thought they were going to go are they regretting their decisions of becoming the good guys? It's not paying off as much as they would like to, and now they're starting to kind of feel bad because of that. Is this now going to be them going in reverse and reverting back into being the bad guys again? But surprisingly, they decided not to go in that direction, and instead they get kidnapped.
Yeah.
Which is okay.
Yeah, they get kidnapped by a trio of female criminals who want to be able to have the bad guys for one final big heist. And it consists of 3 characters. You have Kitty Cat, Pigtail, and Doom.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I guess we start off with Doom because Mr. Snake is dating Susan, and Susan is later on revealed to be Doom. And yeah, I mean, Mr. Snake is actually acting really interesting where, he's going over to yoga classes and, he's drinking kombucha drinks and he's getting himself shredded with abs. And the rest of the characters are like saying like, yeah, Mr. Snake is acting a little bit weird, but hey, as long as he's happy, that's good for him. And so they realize that there's a lot of theft that's been going on with, these items that are being stolen. And of course, the bad guys are blamed for it. And so they go over to the chief, or the commissioner in this case. Yeah. You remember that female chief in the movie who was like really over the top and wanting to capture the bad guys?
And she sort of kind of looks like Wreck-It Ralph.
Yeah, now she's a commissioner, and yeah, basically, Mr. Wolf comes over to her and explains that not only are they not the ones responsible for stealing all of these items, but there's actually an interesting connection going on. And you have that scene from The Office is like, oh, you have all these things that are like pinned and, all these lines and all these pictures and all those things that are trying to like connect with one another. And it turns out that these items actually have something in common. They're made out of the same material called MacGuffinite, and they realize that the next item that's going to be stolen is a belt for a luchador competition. And it just so happens that Mr. Snake and Susan are going to be going over there because they have a date. And
well, I'm really like, at this point, like they're trying to make it out like Snake has not turned the corner. Like he's going back to his old ways, and that's the reason why he's got all like his gear and everything like that. Because once again he's back to being a bad guy again. And a lot of shenanigans happen at this lucha, event, and then we find out that's not the reason why, Snake. Apparently, he's been dating Susan. I'm guessing Susan basically has been his sugar mom, I guess you could say, by giving him all his stuff. But so I think that was the way that was implied, and it was funny because it's like, oh yeah, good on Mr. Snake. We're going to finally see another aspect of Mr. Snake's character. But if anything, it ends up being kind of an unfortunate trope of him being a hopeless romantic, and with Doom, and sadly, it doesn't really go anywhere, really, when you think about it in the grand scheme of things.
No, it doesn't. It actually goes more up and down than anything. It's like...
It doesn't go anywhere. It's not integral to the plot. I mean, unless it's to the point where, that's the reason why they got captured. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's literally it, is that you have, this really strong luchador who's going to be taking down the champion. And then eventually, they realize, oh, this is the luchador who's actually been stealing all the items. And then the belt is actually gone and is actually attached to Mr. Piranha. And now they're officially blamed for stealing all of the items. And so that's the point in which they actually do get kidnapped. And Kitty Cat is the leader of the group. And she's really tough, and she's no nonsense. And she has to be tough because when she was younger, she was mistreated by everyone because she's I think she's a panther, I think.
And unfortunately, I mean, I'm sorry to rain on your parade, but she's very, very generic as a villain. It's actually I've had a bad upbringing, so the only thing I know is stealing, and that's my only thing. I have no redeeming parts of my character whatsoever. I'm just the big bad boss, and no one can defeat me because I'm huge and strong, and that's my thing. I mean, I gotta be honest with you, I was not interested in Kitty Cat whatsoever.
I mean, it would have been. It's a really lost. Unfortunately, it's a lost potential because she could have had a redemption arc like Mr. Wolf did in the first movie, in which he thought that being the big bad wolf was all that he was going to be. Because I mean, we heard that in the narration from the first movie. It's like I gotta
be honest with you, I thought they were gonna go the next step and kill her. I really did. I thought. Well, by the way, we're going to go into spoiler territory at this point.
We are.
So, anyone who's not watched The Bad Guys yet, and we're up to this point, go watch The Bad Guys too. And but I think you probably see from what we've said so far, we didn't really enjoy it as much as the first one. So anyway, we'll see you in a few minutes.
All right, see you. Bye.
Okay, so we're in spoiler territory now.
Here we go.
So I mean, when they got up to the satellite, and they were stealing all the gold, and I thought, oh wow, maybe they're going to escape on the thing, and but she stays because she's so stupid stupidly greedy, and then the whole thing just overloads and explodes, and she dies in the explosion and stuff like that. I thought that's what the direction we were going to go in when they went up into space, but no, they just kind of like made it where like, oh well, there's a possibility she might come back because they put her in a jail cell, sort of the same way they did with Marmalade.
Oh, so, speaking of Marmalade, yeah, he plays a major part in this movie.
Yeah, like unfortunately we kind of get a bit of silliness with this because he's just there playing Connect 4, which is like, it's just like, all right then.
And also he is super buff.
Oh yeah, he is, and I mean, it's funny because he's like saying, does he want to get out? It's like, no, I'm like the captain of some team in this prison or something like that, so he doesn't want to get out so soon. It's
I think it was like pickleball or something like that. Where,
I don't know. Idea.
Yeah, so yeah, he's doing really well in prison, and he wants to stay there.
Well, as well as you can do for a bad guy, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. But yeah, I mean, he has a major connection not only with Kitty Cat but also with Diane, because he was the one who told Kitty Cat about MacGuffinite, which makes a lot of sense in context because, as we know from the first movie, he was really interested in rocks and because of the meteorite, and so yeah, it would make a lot of sense why he would know about the substance that is inside of this metal that would eventually get more stronger in concentration to the point in which you can be able to boil it down and it can attract gold from anywhere as long as you have a connection.
It's also
to
where Kitty Cat realized that Marmalade is not the Crimson Paw, and that Diane Foxington is actually the Crimson Paw, and she managed to find the security footage that shows that she was that, and
yes.
That gets uploaded to the internet, and eventually because of that she just suddenly gets suspended from becoming the governor, I guess.
Because Marmalade was arrested for essentially a crime that he didn't commit.
Yeah.
But in a way, remember, Marmalade also stole the meteorite, and he was also the one who let out all of those guinea pigs and all those hamsters.
He's a villain in himself, and so but I mean, obviously they couldn't pin him for those crimes as far as they go. So that's the thing with that, and also after that happens, Marmalade is let go, and it's assumed that he's now out in the world somewhere. But mind you, the last time we saw him, he was in a solid gold limo, but then that got sucked up into space as well. So maybe he might be dead. I don't know. We didn't see him after that. As far as I'm aware,
that's pretty much it. I mean, unless he landed somewhere else.
I have no idea.
Yeah, we have no idea. But
yeah, but I think the way that they've left it out is that to be honest with you, besides the things that they do to get the things that they need to get the rocket into the space and all that kind of thing. This is the thing. This movie. I was talking to Patricia about this, but after we stopped watching it, is this kind of feels more like a video game that actually does a movie, because here's the scene that you have to fight the luchador, and here's the scene where the level that you have to fight to get to through the wedding and to do all the things, grab the watch as well, and here's the bit where you have to where you only got a few seconds to deal with the laptop and throw it into the furnace or whatever, and then there's the bit where you have to play Connect 4 with Marmalade. It kind of feels like a video game more than it does feel like a movie, and so that kind of felt a bit obscure when I was having this experience we're watching this film, and so I mean, it was the one thing I'll say that I think is weaker for the bad guys too than it is for the bad guys. There's a lot less story that's kind of in the bad, at least original story that's in the bad guys. Because if anything, everything that's happening in the bad guys too is kind of just shooting off what happened with the first movie.
It is, yeah. I mean, you have essentially them starting off with a flashback where it introduces them as the bad guys. I mean, again. I mean, it takes place in Egypt 5 years before the events of the movie, where Miss Tarantula is first joining, and they steal a car.
Well, just on that point, I can see what they're doing here. They're trying to make this movie feel a lot bigger than the first movie was, but I mean, it's one thing to put your characters in different places, but I mean that doesn't actually mean you've got a bigger and more epic story. It just means they happen to be in Cairo in Egypt when this thing happened, and they happen to be in this part of the country when this thing happened. It didn't make it feel like any bigger of a movie just because there was more locations in it.
It kind of felt like a Sly Cooper cutscene. It's okay, we're gonna go over to this part of the world so we can be able to seal this thing. Okay, we're gonna go over to this part of the world so that we can break into a security breach, and okay, we're gonna go into a boat in this river in this country and stuff like that. So
it kind of feels like, it kind of feels like one of those action movies where it's like, oh, well, we've got to be in this part of the world and we've got to be in that part of the world, and because we're secret agents and we need to defeat the bad guy, and but in order to do that, we have to go to different locations. If anything, kind of feel like it kind of feels like the real Adventures of Johnny Quest in a way. Like, the way that we've kind of like gone around in different places.
Or Mission Impossible.
Oh, Mission Impossible. Yeah, I mean, that's true.
Yeah, but anyway, so yeah, you have this flashback that's going on, and it's explaining who the characters are, which, okay, I will give it that. Maybe there's a lot of people who didn't see the first movie. And so, yeah, you have Mr. Fox explaining about that, they were living the good life, and then the events of the first movie is told in flashback, and we get to see that now they're good again, and now they go over to essentially being poor and trying to apply for jobs, and they're being rejected by it because of all the things that they've done over the years. And I think that's really interesting. I really like the fact that these characters are wanting to have another chance at life, but unfortunately they are told no because of their previous experiences of going around and stealing things. And yeah, I mean, it kind of reminds me of like of how prisoners, when they finally got released out of jail for doing a crime, even if it's like the most minute crime, because they have that criminal record with them forever, they are going to be the ones who are going to have much more bigger trouble of finding a job than people who don't have a criminal record, because they're afraid that it's like, oh, you are going to jail for stealing. It's like, we don't want to hire you because you might steal our stuff. But it's like, no, I want to have another chance at life. And I promise I'll be a good worker. It's like, I don't know, this record tells me otherwise. So
do you know what I hate so much about that story is that when we finally get to the end of the movie, you think that, oh wow, like, Diane Foxington is now going to be exactly in the same situation as the bad guy. She's been revealed as the Prince of Crimson Paw. She's now lost her job as governor, and now, I mean, I imagine the statutes of limitations probably on all her crimes are probably like expired at this point. Maybe that's the reason why she's not probably going to be arrested. Maybe when she gets back. But I mean, like, what you thought that they would go for the story, like, oh, they all get back. Now, Diane Foxington is in exactly the same situation as Wolf is. And, by the way, they actually put, Wolf and, Fox, Diane together in this movie, which I think is, it's very sweet.
Yeah, it is very sweet.
It's a very sweet relationship.
Yeah,
and a lot of people were shipping them anyway. So, I mean, like, it makes sense to do it.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, you have that scene in which when they're, sparring with each other in boxing, and, then they call each other, like, medium, we're going to have a medium relationship, and we're going to be good friends. And it's like, you guys like each other more than that.
Yeah, to be fair, like, you kind of felt them because, like, it's the same because, Wolf is, an ex-convict, and, where Diane Foxington is the governor of the state. I mean, like, it would be suicide for her, politically, for her to, do that. It wouldn't fare well with the crowd, and, but now, the one thing that I really hated is that, they finally put Diane Foxington in that situation, but, I mean, like, they all just get to fake their deaths anyway, and then they all get to be secret agents, like, at the very end of the movie, which is like, that's a pretty, miserable, message to have at the very end of the movie. If you've, done wrong in life, and now you've paid for your deeds, and now you're trying to be good, the moral of the story is fake your death and become a secret agent. No, like, it just, that's a pretty lousy message, and I mean, like, that's what happens. Like, we get to the point where they are faced with this impossible situation. The big bad wolf tries to, like, give this rousing, pep talk to, like, everybody to, like, get them out of the situation, but then we immediately supercut to them all being dead.
Yeah.
And you have the commissioner, just basically crying her eyes out, like, in front of everybody. And then she goes into the next room where the bunch of coffins are. And then she basically just starts laughing to everybody and saying, hey, everybody, I just faked your deaths. And now you have to be secret agents of this thing that we just made up. And, you all live happily ever after, I guess.
I guess so.
And I think that probably might end up being the end of it, because right now the box office for this movie is not great. It's only, at the moment, it's only 182 million, but it is still in theaters, so will it cross the $200 million mark? I have no idea, but even then, I mean, by DreamWorks standard, that's not a good box office.
Yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense because this movie came out roughly around the same time as the Naked Gun remake, as well as the Fantastic Four movie, and the Fantastic Four movie has made over $500 million. Yeah,
and like, so, unfortunately, I think, it was funny because I gave this franchise so much hope, because of the way that the first movie was, and now I look at the second movie after coming out and saying, well, I mean, there were some good moments, but I mean, this thing is kind of running out of steam a little bit here, and if they do make the Bad Guys 3, I'm sort of kind of worried about what it actually might end up being. I'm hoping it's going to prove me wrong, and they look at how weak the Bad Guys 2 is compared to the original movie, and they decide, what, I mean, here's the thing about this, where we are right now with the Bad Guys 2, they've got the opportunity to wipe the slate clean, so now they're secret agents, and now they can probably do this whole thing about this, but unfortunately, I really hope this doesn't end up being kind of like Spies in Disguise, where it's just oh hey, they're these cocky secret agents think they can, they go and do no wrong, and then they end up here's this shenanigans that happen, and then they don't realize they're as invincible as they think they are. And because even Suicide Squad did that story, and it's and as bad as that probably was, I mean unfortunately I really don't want to see sort of that story again, just with the bad guys who aren't really the bad guys anymore, they're secret agents.
Yeah.
So yeah.
All right, so yeah, I mean, I don't really have much to say about this, so I guess we should just score this.
Funny enough, we've only been through this for 20 minutes. How I mean, that's probably one of the shortest Dream Machine episodes I think we've ever done. I think,
I mean,
I'm be wrong about that.
No, you're right, because I think the last time that we had a little bit of a shorter episode was probably with Joseph King of Dreams or something like that.
Yeah, probably like that. Yeah, but I mean, that's how. I mean, the one thing I'll just safely say this. Just to do a recap before we go into scores. And that is that I think the story I think in this is not as well framed I think as the original one was. I think the characters in this also there's one bit of story actually we kind of missed out on, and that is that the big bad wolf at one point kind of questions did we do the right thing by being good, but then kind of dismisses it after that, and it's kind of what. It's tell what story are we telling here? That kind of threw me a little bit really when we got to that point when they were doing that, and But, anyway, I digress. So, I mean, story, unfortunately, not as good as the original movie. The characters, I don't think, are as good as, they were in the original movie. The music, I don't think, was as good as, in the original movie either. And, unfortunately, it tries to be bigger than the original movie, but it ends up kind of, just being, not as big as the other one, which is really shocking to think when they've been in so many other places in this movie compared to when they were in the original Bad Guys, when they were just in one town.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they were just in one city, and they were doing a whole bunch of crimes, but you remember those set pieces. You remember the missions that they were a part of. And yeah, I mean, the relationships were really great. You remember the relationships between Mr. Wolf and Mr. Snake. You remember when Mr. Wolf met up with Diane. You remember with, when Professor Marmalade came into the picture. I mean, even we still laugh about that stupid, the meteorite looked like a butt joke.
Yeah, exactly. And so we still laugh about that too. So, in regards to a score, I mean, 7 out of 10.
I would say probably a 7 out of 10.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a pretty solid movie on its own if you were to watch it, have no context of the first movie, but yeah, it just doesn't hold a candle to the first movie. It doesn't have it doesn't have the relatable dialogue that you see in the previous movie. It definitely feels a little bit on par with Reservoir Dogs or with Pulp Fiction, where you get to see Mr. Wolf and Mr. Snake talking to each other, or it doesn't have those little quirky one-liners. And
I might be totally wrong here, but I get Fast and Furious vibes from this movie a little bit. I don't know, it's just
probably with the car chase scenes.
Maybe, yeah, I'm not too sure, but it's that's sort of how it sort of feels. But I mean, it just kind of feels it just feels like a sequel to an action movie that we've seen a bunch of times already, and we're just kind of going with a bunch of friends because it's a movie franchise that we've grown up with. Yeah.
Well, I'm curious if they are going to do a third movie, and if they do, I hope that they are able to amp it up and make the characters more engaging like they were in the first movie.
I get the feeling that if they did do the Bad Guys 3, if it ends up being worse than 2, good grief, what on earth are we going to end up with?
Oh boy.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing with DreamWorks films. I mean, the second movies have always been masterpieces. Shrek 2, How to Train Your Dragon 2, Kung Fu Panda 2, and then the third movie kind of teeters off and just goes downhill. Shrek the Third, Kung Fu Panda 3, I really did enjoy.
And then when it gets to the fourth movie, it's downright boring. Shrek Forever After, I think, is probably one of the worst sequels I've ever watched.
and then Kung Fu Panda 4 was just a major disappointment.
Yeah, exactly. So,
So yeah, I'm hoping that this will be the rare case in which that the third movie will hit the mark.
Well, given the fact that I think they've got a chance to wipe the slate clean on this one, I mean, I really hope they don't do kind of thing like oh hey, we were secret agents, but then all of a sudden people will discover that we were alive. It's like this entire time that we faked our deaths. It's like, and then they just go back to doing whatever they were doing before. It's like, no, that's a massive step backwards if they end up doing that.
It sounds like Rocky 5. It's like, okay, yeah. I mean, Rocky started off from the bottom, and then, he became a massive, boxing champion in Rocky 3 and 4. Oh, he becomes broke in Rocky 5. Okay, he's going to move back down to Philadelphia, and he's completely poor, and now he's going to be training this up-and-coming guy who's just a jerky, wannabe who thinks that he's just as great when he's actually not.
Yeah, but anyway, we digress. So anyway, that's been our episode of Dream Machine for the bad guys too, and
the next movie, if we are even going to talk about it, is Gabby's Dollhouse the movie.
Yeah, I don't think we'll be rushing to see that either, to be honest with you.
I don't even know if we're even going to be talking about it because it's like, yeah, this is a very similar situation that we saw with Spirit Riding Free. It's like, okay, we're not familiar with the TV show, but they released a theatrical movie, so should we watch it?
So we'll let you know on that one, I think.
We'll let you know. If we don't end up watching Gabby's Dollhouse the movie, then we do have a movie for DreamWorks that's coming out next year, and that's, what was it, Forgotten Island, I think it was?
Yeah, it was, and by the way, everybody, for those of you who do not know, Shrek 5 has been moved over to 2027.
Yes, it has been. And it's funny because as far as we know, this is going to be the only DreamWorks film that's going to be released in 2026, which hasn't been done since 2015 when Only Home was released. And yeah, usually for the past 10 years, DreamWorks movies have been releasing, DreamWorks has released 2, maybe 3, 4 films a year. This is the case next year that they might even be releasing 1. I'm curious about what they're going to be doing afterwards.
Yeah, we'll find out soon enough.
Yeah. So, yeah, until then, everyone, take care, and we'll see you later.